Hi, and welcome back to the next episode of Confabulation with Our Sister's House. Our Sister's House is a domestic violence advocacy organization, and if you or anyone you know is experiencing DV, please contact Our Sister's House at 253-383-4275 or visit our website at oursistershouse.com. Also, the first weekends of December, we are doing virtual trivia game nights and pictures with Black Santa. Head to our social medias or our Facebook event page to RSVP. Um, and I would like to open up the floor to my fellow Our Sisters House members to start discussing our topic of the day, Surviving the Holidays 101. Does anyone have a place they'd like to start?
Yeah. So holidays can be really stressful, right? So one of the best things I think is always coming up with a way to find a safe space, whether it's emotionally a safe space or a physical safe space, and knowing that it's okay to take it, because you have to be safe in order to survive, regardless of who you're with. And just because it's family or friends or whatever it is, it's something that we all have to do in order to take care of ourselves. And just because it's the holidays, your obligation is really to yourself.
Yeah. Especially when it comes to survivors, it can be really hard because you're either forced to be around and see some family members that maybe aren't safe. And then there's also the flip side where there's not having a family to be around. And for that particular part, when it comes to queer youth, because many queer youth don't have families that they feel comfortable being around or involved with. And there are organizations like Oasis and the Rainbow Center of downtown Tacoma, where they do things like Home for the Holidays. So it's a queer space for your chosen family to be able to come together and have a time for like celebration of family and not feel trapped in a space where you don't feel safe.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, also to bring up to, maybe you have to go there, or maybe there's, no way out of it or something like that. Finding a family member or a friend or, just somebody, a mentor or something that you can either text or bring with you, whatever the case is, and then have a safe word, either, the person to text or, safe word to, oh, I'm uncomfortable, and communicate that exactly what you want that person to do. So do you want them to come pick you up if they're, you know, or something like that, or do you want them, to come, find an excuse to get you away from that person, or whatever the case is, making sure you communicate with a family member or friend or mentor or whatever, whoever their relationship is with you that you trust in this situation. I think is also a good buffer, even in a healthy relationship. Sometimes you might not be in a situation that, or something's uncomfortable and it's too much to explain. And, just making sure you communicate, when I say Hawkeye or whatever the case is, to help you get out of that situation and, understand that, hey, I need to get out of here. And definitely, I think that's a huge piece and really good communication and, any type of situation to, have a safe word, and letting that person know what you want them to do in that specific moment. So they're not guessing. So.
I'd actually really like that, and I'd even go piggyback off of that even further, as you can even have like a code, like a physical code of like a sign of, maybe it's tapping your leg or your knee or something that people don't know if you happen to be in that space of like a house, or you're at a restaurant or whatever it is with a person that you feel comfortable with, whether it's family, friend, coworker, or whatever, who knows that it's going to be a difficult time of year. So you don't necessarily, if you don't have your phones out or something where they can see it, if speaking either isn't an option or not a time to do it, that might be something. So this way you have two options. I mean, more options, the better, right? More ways to keep yourself gives you opportunities for safety, right? So I really like David's, and it's just bringing it more availabilities for that. So
Yeah. And oftentimes, you can also, take some breaths or whatever the case is, or like, use something to ground yourself, so you can make a smart decision or something like that. Feel the ground beneath your feet, or, if you got to clench your fist, or something, something where you can feel yourself so you can, and think about that, specific, just that one thing, just to get your mind to be like, okay, I'm here, what can I do now after that? So if it's, feeling the ground beneath you, feeling the air coming into your lungs, whatever that case is, also being grounded, so you can make a smart decision, or, you can gather your mind back so you can, think some logic in there. Cause, oftentimes, some of these emotions can, make you feel, make you do something that you don't want to do, or, maybe not react the way you want to. And, it's perfectly fine, because I can't, name every situation that you're going to be in or something like that. But it's definitely, some little tips and tricks that you can do to just ground yourself, and, so you can, bring your thoughts from the emotional to the logical, so you can make, safe steps to get out of whatever situation you're in. These are not fit to every situation, but, definitely some tops, tips and stuff that will help just a little bit.
I think that even, I mean, I'm assuming we're none of us are licensed professionals in like mental health or therapy or like counseling or anything. But I think having a conversation, if you have access to that kind of professional and like maybe seeing what their perspective is would be helpful. And something that I was thinking about when David and Michelle were talking is maybe like prepare some talking points before attending a family event if you have to go. So just to kind of like avoid a talking point that you know is going to come up and that might like make you feel like you're in distress or put you in that situation. So whether it's like current events or even like something like a book that you've read or whatever, um, if you have no choice but to be at a gathering where you know it's not going to be a safe space for you and you're comfortable enough to um, engage with them in a way that kind of takes attention away from whatever is triggering to you, that might be helpful. That's something that I've thought of in the past, and it's worked every time.
Going off of that, also, something I've done before is if I feel like I know there are going to be some questions that are unavoidable, but are the kinds of topics that I would like to avoid, then I kind of like go over an internal monologue of how I would respond to these certain questions when I'm in my own safe space in my neutral zone environment, so I can think of the exact particular words that I'd like to use in order to answer the questions, but not have to put myself in harm's way when it comes to my own emotions and mental health when talking to family members about these topics. Um, and then there is something else I wanted to say. If someone else has something, I can pop in again later.
Um, I think something a lot of people don't think about is you also can choose not to go. It's a hard thing. A lot of people don't want to necessarily be alone or not with people because they think it's an obligation. But it's hard for self care to like think of, oh, I haven't seen my family or whatever it is. But sometimes not going may be the best thing um, for that situation. And if there's a ton of people that could be triggering, or you know that the scenario can get heated or whatever it is, it's okay to say that's not the best thing for the holiday situation, and I can see people one on one or see them the following day or make an arrangement. And if those individuals are important, they may make the effort to do it. And if they're going to make you feel bad about it, then that's the exact reason you don't want to go, maybe. I mean, it's up to you and how you want to handle the situation. Um, but I think partly of how is the best self-care for you during the holidays. And sometimes the difficult situations and the difficult decisions are sometimes going to be how you handle those, and that could be one that may work. I
Yeah,
don't
I
know.
think this is, all the things that we talked about are definitely about, basically setting healthy boundaries. This is how you create healthy relationships, and even a healthy relationship with yourself, being able to say no, even if I guess if you are in, a domestic violence relationship, and maybe you're not able to say no, or whatever you think is too dangerous, then having that extra person to talk to, setting that boundary of, hey, I have my safe word, or having, like what Bethel said, that having different talking points, or what Skylar said, when having a safe place to go, for the holidays, if you are queer, transgender, or gay or lesbian, whatever, all that stuff. So setting boundaries, and knowing yourself, and having a healthy relationship with yourself, and then if you have a healthy relationship with somebody else, being able to set those boundaries, that they know your limits also. So this is about healthy, also having healthy relationship, and setting those boundaries in all types of situations, especially during the holidays, where family can be sometimes stressful.
Also, like during the holidays, I feel like there's a lot of like great opportunities to volunteer and give back to the community, and maybe getting your family involved in that, or whoever you're having to gather with, might kind of take away from the pressures of, sitting at a dinner table or something, or like having to converse with them as much as you would in like I guess a traditional holiday dinner. Um, and like, one, you're doing good for the community, and also like it could be maybe a healthy way of like creating a new kind of relationship with certain family or friends or whatever, because like I guess in volunteering, like personally I've never volunteered with like my family. Like my mom works at a nonprofit, and like I would volunteer there sometimes in high school, but we wouldn't like, she worked there, so we wouldn't like go out of our way to go volunteer places. And I think that would be an interesting side of like to see my mom in like a volunteering position, where we're helping people we don't know, and like it's not like we're obligated to do it or anything. Or even just like instead of having a traditional dinner, like maybe making plans to just have like a cooking day, and just like make a bunch of food with a bunch of people who would usually come to the gathering, and just like make plans to give that out throughout the holiday weekend too.
Yeah, I really like that idea, that, it's definitely good to you not only, eat on Thanksgiving or anything like that during the holidays, giving back to, the community, in different ways that you can, volunteering, or, giving gifts, or whatever the case is, that is, that's definitely something I want to do. And, thanks, Bethel, for, bringing that up.
It also moves the attention from one or two individuals to other people. So, like, if you do end up having a sit down dinner after, it changes the conversation. And so, having that as a shared activity, then it's like you're moving the conversation to, oh, we have the shared activity to talk about rather than whatever it is that you guys as a family or friends group or whatever generally have as something to talk about that's not always pleasant. Now you have a pleasant thing to talk about, and it's nice to share the pleasant conversation. So that's a really good.
That can be an additional way to cope if like you don't have the option to go out with your family to go and do a group activity. If you could bring a set of dominoes or a board game or like just games or activities, things to keep your mind on, to be like keeping your hands busy and doing while you're at the family event, then that can get other people distracted. Maybe have a puzzle going. That way, like people are invested in what they're doing actively and not so much the way I feel about it when it comes to my family, and be like, it's not so much into my business. We can just kind of like be in each other's space.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
definitely getting.
personal. Oh,
You got
sorry,
it.
I was just gonna say some personal coping mechanisms I have also is having my fidget toys on me and making sure I have like my own little self-care pack, that all the things that I would need to make sure I have available um, in order to just kind of keep my own nerves down. So if anyone else benefits from like stim toys and stuff, I would recommend that.
I also tend to bring extras of those because you don't know if other people are taking out their anxieties um, on you, and that's why the relationships might be like clashing. So now my stuff doesn't always work on other people, so it doesn't always work that way, but I do try to bring like a couple of other things. um, but I think that's just something that was like a really good point. It's like the fidget toys or things. That's a great one. I tend to bring like crocheting and knitting things. My dog comes with me always. Things like that that like tend to relieve me. I know like books and books on tape, and but like if I try to bring other things that maybe somebody else may want to try, doesn't mean they'll take it, but it's at least an option where you don't know if the reason is because somebody else is having their own stuff.
I've found when it comes to coping mechanisms and stim toys and things, coloring pages are like it. It's something that I would have avoided growing up because I didn't care about coloring that much. But whenever I really need to center my mind and I just am focusing on filling in the lines, um, then that helps me really just zone in and be in that moment. And then when I've noticed whenever I'm around other people with my coloring pages, they end up wanting to color too. So then everyone is in their own hyper focused state into their coloring pages and not focused on everything else that's going on.
Also, kind of like shifting the gears a little bit, I do want to encourage anybody who might know somebody that might have like a difficult time during the holidays to like invite them to their family gatherings. I know that for like people, especially I've seen this in college, so for like international students or people who live out of state who can't go home for the holidays for whatever reason, um, they'll go home with like their roommates, so they can spend the holidays with them, or just like other friends that they met in college. And I think that's really cool because um, like one, it's always nice to have your like loved ones meet other sometimes loved ones, sometimes just people that are extensions of you. You don't necessarily like have to get along with them, but it could even make you comfortable in a family gathering. And like I just saw this morning, one of my friends partners who's an international student, he just transferred to a new school and he's going home with his roommate for the holidays. And I thought that was really cool. Like they just met. It's like what, 2-3 months into the semester. He's at a new school and he's already like been able to establish a relationship with somebody. And like spend time in a more intimate setting, which is like, you know, their house and like meet their family. And I just really think that's like a nice thing to do. And like I feel like it should be more normalized. I feel like, you know, you don't have to be dating somebody or like in any kind of like, I guess, romantic relationship with them in order to bring them to a holiday dinner. It could literally be anybody.
Well, it also includes new culture. Like if they've never been to a Thanksgiving, like it's it makes it more about like the what it is and the traditions that you guys do rather than the issues. So, because I've been a part of that before, so it was actually a really big success. It wasn't about like the other stuff. So I just figured I would put that little note in. It was like really cool. Um, and the other thing I thought I'd add was because we were talking about positive like activities, things a lot of people forget about is like go to like a zoo or like so I don't know if they're always open on like actual holidays, but like the zoo, the aquarium, the parks, like things that you don't always get to do because you're working or you're a parent and you don't get to have the kids because they're at school or whatever. Like take the advantage of it because it's a different day. Um, and maybe that's what you do and you change it up a little. Because there's so much pressure on it's a holiday and make it more about it's a fun day. Go to the park, like go to a playground park and like you get to spend time and talk to the kids and say like, "Oh, hey, how's it been going?" and just do something like that and actually talk to your significant other or your like, "Oh, I feel like it's been stressful. What's going on?" or yes, it's the holidays, but is it really about the holiday or is it about spending time with people and getting that communication building? And that's more of what the holidays are about is seeing people and building that healthy communication. And if there's something that's not working, is that the opportunity to kind of like talk about it and figure out the best way to build that bond back. And if you guys figure out that maybe you guys want to go to counseling or if you need to figure out like groups or whatever it is right for somebody. I think that's kind of like, is it really about the cooking of the food and like the tension, or is it about the people?
I
Sorry.
think we haven't
Yeah.
got to the nitty gritty, because what we really need to say is what, everybody needs to do this holiday season is say, Grandma, green bean casserole stinks. Don't bring it no more. No, I'm just kidding. I just had to make a joke to lighten up the mood, but yeah, just ready for the food. So that's where my mind's at. Oh,
I think that was a really good framing, though, Michelle, because especially when it comes to, like this holiday itself, like Thanksgiving and the Americanized history of it, isn't great. Like it's not something that really supports. So being able to really change that framing from Thanksgiving and like American history and like upholding our forefathers and whatever, and really just like it's an excuse to make sure that we're focusing on the people that we care about around us and like really spreading out the love and having those interconnections that we need, but not forcing them in places that aren't safe, you know. Um, and why does this keep happening? I keep having things to say and then it goes away. Um,
It's because you're your thoughts are so thoughtful and
yeah,
provoking.
there's too much going on in here. But yeah, I really just wanted to make sure that we had time during this episode to acknowledge and recognize the history of the holiday and that we're actively working on reframing it. Um, And that means that all of the old traditions that go along with it don't have to be there anymore either. So it's like you don't always have to be with your blood related family. There are more definitions than just DNA that determines family, and strong interpersonal relationships and community, and that's the focus of for the day. And um, for my family, as an example, we don't really even celebrate Christmas very much because my parents aren't religious and it's not part of our personal beliefs, and like that we don't like the history of Thanksgiving either. So it's really, we already don't spend a whole lot of time together. We don't sit at the dining room table to eat dinner. So these are just the 2 days a year where we eat at the dining room table, and like we're forced to eat together, and it's like we're having time together because we don't do that. It's not a regular thing. So it's really just to have the opportunity to change things up with the people that you care about, and not holding on to all these traditions that are ingrained in us and in many ways unsafe.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Skylar. I think that's really important to acknowledge and to say. And I mean, I think we've all heard people joke about specifically Thanksgiving dinner and how like they're ready to ruin dinner by educating their family members about the history of Thanksgiving. Um, and like honestly, you should be doing that year round, like not just Thanksgiving, obviously, but for those people who are comfortable, like I guess if they want to practice some kind of form of allyship, like stir things up at the dinner table. Like, yeah, it's like funny to joke about it, but it could actually like you don't have to advocate for things in order to make structural change all the time. Like you can just start with the people that you like grew up with and like family members, just loved ones. And I think that's really important because those conversations can spread. Like you never know what's going to happen with what you say. Sorry, my grandma's here. But yeah, basically, I think it's important to acknowledge that. I know I think last year was like the first COVID holiday season, right? That's what I did. Like, I basically told like my family about the history of Thanksgiving and like because like my family's an immigrant family, they're not really they don't know much about American history in general. And they didn't know about any of it. So I know for a fact that maybe my family might not take that conversation outside of the house, but it just like is nice to know that I was able to use that time and educate them about it. And just like, I don't know, I'm kind of going on a rant now, but yeah, definitely if you're in a privileged position where you're comfortable enough to talk about things like that, definitely do that.
It's also important because it makes people, it builds those relationships. Like people, regardless of, you have to be able to have a healthy relationship in those conversations. And if this is the time that you have to communicate it, that's when you need to have those conversations. And it feels taboo to have the conversations right now. But a lot of times, if you don't have those conversations, it's going to continue to feel that way. And I know this agency, we're privileged to have those conversations. And it's not as taboo to have those conversations. And other homes feel the drama when you have those conversations and the tension. And it's something that people want to have. And at some point will start having more often, hopefully. And again, if you can't have those conversations, you come up with ways to be able to leave, or but bringing them up hopefully will be part of your thankfulness and your gratefulness, and um, but it is something as that will start building those healthy relationships within not just your families but future relationships. So
Yeah, and I think a good way, picking back off, guys, what we were talking about earlier, changing up the traditions, stuff like that. If you can, if you can bring up those ideas, oftentimes that, helps and creates a better bond. And so maybe you can, bring up those conversations that are a little tougher, or, to talk about, because you've built that bond, through that that new tradition and stuff like that. So new card games, or going to a museum, or volunteering, whatever the case is. Because I remember that happened to me when I was in school. I was all the way from away from home. I didn't have money for a ticket to go back home, but um, I went on with a choir and stuff like that, and we went to Ohio, and we sang at churches and stuff like that. And I, even after months after. After having that whole week with them during Thanksgiving and all that stuff, I had a bond with all the people that I went with, just because we spent that week together. We spent a holiday together, and we did some things that we didn't usually do. We sang, and we went to nursing homes, and we went to churches, and we went to go feed the homeless and stuff like that. So it was definitely a really great experience, and I had a better appreciation for people that I wasn't family with. So making those new traditions and stuff like that definitely can help you grow a closer bond.
Does anyone have any last last finishing thoughts? Okay, I want to just thank you all for having this conversation. I think this was needed for a lot of people to be able to have a space to talk about how stressful and hard the holidays can be, especially when just trying to deal with family. But um, we've talked about many different ways to build community, and like David said, there's so many different ways to have access to new kinds of bonds. So if you have the kind of opportunity to be able to go on a trip like that for a group trip for the holidays, for singing, or community service with the homeless, and whatever the case may be, those are opportunities that um, would be really great to take a hold of. Um, but that's all we have for today. Thank you for joining us with the Confabulation. Just a reminder, this is Our Sister's House, and we are a domestic violence advocacy organization. And if you or anyone you know is experiencing DV, please contact Our Sister's House at 253-383-4275, or visit our website at oursistershouse.com. And also don't forget about the first 2 weeks of December. We have two events, one being a virtual trivia game night, and the other being Pictures with Black Santa. Head to our social medias or Facebook event page to RSVP. Thank you and have a great day.